Yeah, I also know that the capital that is could be used towards being able to cover down on this. Scheduled to be in Virginia this weekend. We'll play campaigning for Abigail Spanberger. Does that alter plans? Will you be staying in the state now during the state of emergency? No, because I plan on going down there and helping to make sure that Abigail Spanberger becomes the next governor of Virginia, because we need governors that actually take this moment seriously. The reason that I'm going to support Abigail Spanberger is because who your governor is matters. And I think we are seeing that every single day, the illustration of what that looks like. And so I'm excited to have Abigail Spanberger as my partner. I believe that governors in many ways are becoming a really important line of defense around these illegal actions that we are seeing from the Trump administration. And I'm looking forward to have a partner inside the governor's mansion down in the Commonwealth of Virginia who understands that what we understand in Maryland is that we will work with anyone, but we will bow down to no one.
And good afternoon. Welcome to the Fox 5 Live Zone. We start the show off with breaking news. Just minutes ago, Maryland Governor Wes Moore announcing a state of emergency, allocating some $10 million for temporary SNAP relief from the state. He is doing so right now from the Anne Arundel County Food Bank. Let's go ahead and take a live look in.
Well, I'm grateful for the work that Secretary Lopez and the team over at DHS has done to address a lot of these challenges that were longstanding. I mean, as you indicated, Mackenzie, many of the challenges that we were talking about are things that predated not just our inauguration, but predated even our announcement to run for governor in the first place. And so we knew the challenges that existed within DHS. It was the reason that I was excited to have someone like Secretary Lopez, who could come in and actually address the hard problems, address the hard issues, and know that even though these were not problems that started under our watch, these were problems that would be addressed under our watch. And so we know that we have more work to do, that there is not one of us that is going to be settled until we have a situation where every single child, every single family, every single Marylander is receiving the supports that they need. But we also know that in order to do that, in order to continue pushing forward the right kind of measures, the right kind of improvements, it means that we have to be committed to having accountability and transparency and improvement. It is where I am, it is where Secretary Lopez is, it is where the department is, that we are going to get it right under our time, even if these challenges happen before our time. Well, I would argue that for anybody who thinks that that there is not transparency, they should spend time with Secretary Lopez and the team, because this is a deeply transparent team that they have on board, a team that is focused on making sure that we can both get to the right results and making sure we're bringing the population along those lines as well.
Thank you. As a reminder, we have a 1 p.m. background briefing if you have follow-up on this announcement. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all.
All right, there you have it. Yet again, Maryland Governor Wes Moore just minutes ago declaring a state of emergency, allocating some $10 million for temporary SNAP relief. The governor stating that the federal government is actively hurting the people of Maryland. He says this is uniquely detrimental to the residents of Maryland because there's no state that the shutdown affects more. Let's take a look.
And so, and I'm angry that we're asking our public servants to do so much because our federal government has decided to leave us behind. What we are seeing from this federal administration is not just cruel, it's illegal.
Okay,
They're
thank you.
breaking the law to show how cruel they can be. That I'm thinking about the work that they are doing and how cruelty has essentially become a governance philosophy of the Trump administration. Because the money is there. They are choosing not to allocate it. The money has been appropriated. They are choosing not to distribute it. This is heartless. This is cruel. And this is unforgivable. And I think about the why we are here, but also the basic necessities that we have to then turn around and provide, because when the federal government says that you are on your own, in the state of Maryland, we say we leave no one behind.
All right, yet again, Maryland Governor Wes Moore discussing all things with regard to declaring a state of emergency in the state of Maryland, allocating some $10 million, if you will, to folks that are actually about to lose their SNAP benefits. Joining us to discuss this and so much more is political strategist Madeline Somerville, back here on the Live Zone. Madeline, always good to see you. Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday to you, Guy. Good to see you, too.
All right, so the governor spent about 40 minutes or so addressing all things with regard to the government shutdown. Now day 30 with still no end in sight. I think it's pretty obvious. The governor heaping mad, stating that the Trump administration, in essence, will soon leave thousands of children hungry.
Yeah, I think that this has turned into actually a little bit more of a predictable situation than people realize. So think about it this way. Think about it like a chessboard, right? Like we're playing chess, or there's some sort of standoff. You have to, it's easy to anticipate what kind of moves are gonna come next if you don't want the public to turn against you, right? So who is everyone mad at? We can look at the polls and it reflects that most of the polls are saying that it's the Republicans' fault that the government is shut down, right? We know that the Democrats are holding out because they want to be able to negotiate healthcare prices, which is along the lines of SNAP benefits, right? But it's a lot more immediate to deal with the SNAP issue. I think President Trump, one of the things that we can predict from him is that he wants to be liked. He likes to be liked. He likes to be in people's good graces. And so even if the people around him start rallying and say, don't cave, or they say, don't give SNAP benefits to anyone because we can blame it on the Democrats, I don't think he's going to fall for that, because I think he knows the importance of being liked and of maintaining public favor. So I think this will be a little bit more predictable in terms of how he's going to handle it than people realize.
But wait, there's more. We are now getting word that perhaps, Madeline, perhaps we can finally see a light at the end of the tunnel. We know that Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, well, he hasn't really spoken with, well, Mr. Thune as of late, but the two apparently could be getting together and reach a deal to yet again bring the government shutdown to an end.
That's great news. That's wonderful. Finally. We, the American people, are the ones who lose out in this, 100%. Whether you're a federal worker, whether you're someone who receives benefits, or whether you're someone who has to fight with your friends and neighbors, who feels like you have to fight with your friends and neighbors, because you really don't have to, on behalf of whatever party you belong to. So I think that it would help tremendously, right, if we would start remembering as people that we're actually all in this together, and it's really all of us at the bottom or in the middle versus the people at the top, instead of fighting against each other.
Yeah, well, yet again, we'll keep our fingers crossed. I will add that we are speaking with Maryland Congressman Glenn Ivey at 12:30 with the latest on the government shutdown as well. Let's move on to President Trump now ordering the Department of War to begin testing nuclear weapons. In a Truth Social post, the president said due to the testing programs of other countries, he's instructed the department to start testing U.S. weapons on an equal basis. In his post, he specifically cited the nuclear program of Russia and China. Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin says they're testing an underwater nuclear weapon capable of triggering a tsunami. Your thoughts on this, Madeline?
It's frustrating because it's like you're having a contest amongst children a little bit. And remember, whatever comes out on Truth Social, which I have a problem with it being called Truth Social in the first place, whatever comes out on there is exactly what the president wants you to take away from it. It's not necessarily what's going on. It's not necessarily the intention, right? Politics is all about messaging. And so that's the message that he wants you to receive. So it sounds to me like what he's trying to convey is we are going to be number one in every field, including nuclear weapons, right? People balk at the word nuclear. It makes everyone nervous and frustrated, even if it's nuclear energy, which tends to be much safer, actually, which for me is strange, too, because I've got sort of an older perspective on it. But I think here, when it comes to what the president wants us to know, it's that we are in a race. We are racing Russia and China to be number one. It would be a little bit nicer, I think, if we had a specific goal in mind that related to American citizens rather than just being number one. But that is the messaging that he wants us to receive.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how all of this plays out. Madeline, I'm going to ask you to hold your thoughts very quickly. Joey, let's go ahead and take it to Mr. Hakeem Jeffries, speaking with regard to the latest on the government shutdown. Let's take a live look in.
Joined by so many different distinguished members of the clergy, of different faith traditions, denominations, and backgrounds, but all here today to make clear that fighting for the health care of everyday Americans, for the poor, the sick, and the afflicted, for the least, the lost, and the left behind is not a partisan issue, it's a moral issue. And standing on the side of the health care of everyday Americans is the right place to be. Fighting to make sure that no one in this country, the wealthiest country in the history of the world, should go hungry in America. That's not a partisan issue, it's the right place to be. In every faith tradition, as we will hear. So we're so thankful for their moral leadership, thankful for the moral clarity that they've brought to this issue, thankful for the inspirational wisdom and vision that was imparted to us as members of Congress, standing on the side of the American people. And it helps to continue to fuel our efforts to stay the course. This is not a fight for Democrats or Republicans, it's a fight for the American people. And we're going to stand on the side of the health care of the American people, of the safety of the American people, of the well-being of the American people. And lastly, I'm just appreciative that these distinguished members of the clergy, these great faith leaders, have also brought with them individual Americans who are being impacted by some of the extreme policies that have emerged from the administration and from this Congress this year, who we'll also hear from. And Bishop Barber and these distinguished members of the clergy have reinforced the principle that in America, poverty or hardship is not a choice that people are making. It's as a result of policy violence being visited upon everyday Americans. The largest cut to Medicaid in American history, that's policy violence. Shutting down hospitals, nursing homes, and community-based health centers, that's policy violence. Ripping food away from the mouths of hungry children, seniors, families, women, and veterans, and using them as a political pawn, that's policy violence. And the refusal to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, the unwillingness to find a dime to meet the health care needs of the American people when some folks can find $40 billion to bail out a right-wing dictator in Argentina, that's policy violence. And so I'm just thankful for these great men and women of the clergy, thankful for these patriotic Americans who've come to share their stories with us, and we've heard from folks from West Virginia and North Carolina and other parts of this great country, as you will as well. And now it's just my great honor and privilege to yield to the distinguished bishop who has brought us together. We know he's a voice for the voiceless. He's a mighty man of God. He's a powerful, profound, prophetic, principled pastor, Reverend Bishop Barbara.
All right, so there you have it. Hakeem Jeffries yet again addressing all things surrounding the government shutdown, stating that the current shutdown is an actual assault on the Maryland, or rather the people of all of America, the residents of America, the citizens of America at that. Joining us to discuss this and so much more is Madeline Somerville back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. It is a busy afternoon already, Madeline, and I got to tell you, we are expecting several more press conferences as well. Yet again, day 30 of the government shutdown, still no end in sight. You heard what Mr. Jeffries stated with regard to this is an assault on the citizens of the United States of America. It's the blame game, and it appears that blame game continues with both the Democrats and the Republicans.
Yeah, so one thing that I think Democrats need to realize is that politics is about getting people to agree with you who don't already. It's not about who can blame someone louder. I think that the Democrats have tried to use the strategy of getting people into the voting booth who would otherwise stay home, right? A third of Americans don't vote. And so I think that that's the target that they've been looking at. But as we saw in the last election, that didn't work. Those folks still didn't come out to vote. So what they need to be doing is working on swing voters and saying this is policy violence. They've shown that language turns people off. And do I think it's policy violence? Yeah, I do, as personally. But as a political strategist, that's a bad to make America first points, right? And that's what he campaigned on. Now you're targeting those swing voters. Now you're targeting people who might be waffling a little bit on President Trump because they don't like how he's treated illegal immigrants, or they don't like, or U.S. citizens for that matter, with ICE. People who are back and forth. So I think part of that messaging was good. The other part of it was true, but it might not be as effective as he thinks.
Yet again, something we will continue to follow. Speaking of continuing to follow, Madeline, we are following what will take place very shortly in Indiana. We could tell you that Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, along with the Transportation Secretary, Mr. Sean Duffy, apparently the Indiana governor is crying foul, asking them to cease really just stop all of the immigration arrests over the weekend. It's interesting that, yet again, that this continues to be an issue and something that they will now hold a press conference to address. Your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I actually didn't know that, and I promise to always only comment on things that I know about so that your audience can always trust me. But I am from Indiana, and I was aware of the redistricting that's going on there. I know that actually it's 7-2 in favoring Republicans in terms of how the districts are divided, and so it seems like there wouldn't need to be such a redistricting effort. And they also did a poll saying that and Indiana residents, Hoosiers as we call ourselves, did not want there to be any more redistricting. So to me, it seems like that was still a push in favor of what Trump wants. So I'm curious to see the reasoning behind this and what the officials in Indiana are saying. This must be a brand new development.
Yeah, yet again, we'll have that for you live right here on the Live Zone when that happens. Madeline, we'll leave it there. Always good to see you. Truly appreciate your time and you being patient.
Thanks, Guy, of course.
You bet. All right. Well, the election results emerging from Virginia's 2025 cycle won't just influence state policy. They could signal how national fault lines are shifting. As journalists and analysts digest the numbers, the question remains, was this simply a routine off-year election or a deeper indicator of what's brewing across America? Joining us to discuss this and so much more is Victoria Churchill. She is a seasoned political reporter for the Daily Mail and yet again a Young Voices contributor. Victoria, always good to see you. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Always great to be on with you.
All right, so we know in just a minute that former Representative Abigail Spanberger is about to address a number of her supporters, in this case Latinos, for Spanberger. All eyes are on the state of Virginia. We're talking about the gubernatorial race and something that we will see play out right before our very eyes in several days. What do you suspect will unfold and what the ultimate outcome will be?
Sure. Well, a couple of notes. So first of all, whoever wins on Tuesday, whether Spanberger or Winsome, that result will be historic. It will be the first female governor of Virginia. Now, on the other side, we are looking at potentially, I believe, at least if you look at the polling, we could potentially have a mixed government, where potentially, again, if you look at the polling, Spamberger will probably win the gubernatorial race. That lieutenant governor race is a straight toss-up from polling that I'm seeing. And then the attorney general race is looking like Jason Miyares, the Republican incumbent, could hold on in that race. And so, I think a lot of policies that a Spamberger-led government with, a Democrat-controlled legislature might want to push, then Miyares, if he is able to hold on to his seat as attorney general, he would be willing to provide a check to power on the Virginia legislature. So that might be a really interesting combination that we could come out of on Tuesday night.
And Victoria, I apologize, but we'll have to leave it there. That's because we are yet again following breaking news. We know that Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, along with the Transportation Secretary, Mr. Sean Duffy, now addressing the media. Let's take a live look in.
With these illegal criminals and aliens that are in our country and the danger that they present each and every day to the families that live in the United States. As you all know, I'm Kristi Noem. I'm the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, and we do have some special guests with us. We have a unique partnership here in the state of Indiana with the governor. So I want to thank Governor Braun for being with us today, and we'll speak to how his law enforcement agencies are working with the Department of Homeland Security and with our ICE officers to bring safety to our roadways again. I also am thankful that he has his superintendent here, Anthony Scott, and thank him for his leadership in providing some of the efforts that you'll hear about the cooperation today as well. Also, off to my right, I have the Acting Director of ICE, Todd Lyons, is going to speak today about how we are doing this across the country and compounding the efforts that we're putting forward. And then Deputy Director Madison Sheehan will share with you some insight on what more people can do to ensure that our laws are followed in this country. Now, many of these individuals that come into our country illegally may commit criminal acts as well beyond that, but then go to a state and get licensed and receive a commercial driver's license, many times are challenged in how they put that forward and how they do their work every day. We've seen over the years that they don't speak English, they can't read our road signs, that when they have enforcement activities with law enforcement officers, that they can't communicate with them, and it presents a danger many times over. In fact, putting these foreigners in tractor trailers like the ones you see behind me becomes extremely dangerous. I have driven semis over many, many years and 18-wheelers and understand they're difficult to stop, maneuver. You have to have a skill set, but also communication with those around you. And certainly in your training, that's important to make sure you're operating it safely. Putting them behind the wheel of these tractor trailers weighing tens of thousands of pounds loaded with explosive fuel down the highway endangers every single citizen that is on our roads. Today, these individuals will speak about some of those incidences that we've seen, but also what we're doing to clean up this activity and those dangers every single day. Now, through our 287G partnership that we have with the state of Indiana, we have run an operation recently which has allowed to hundreds of arrests that has brought people in that are breaking our laws. Through that partnership, 223 illegal aliens have been arrested and taken off of our roads. Of those, 146 of them were drivers. That includes 46 semi-truck drivers and another 82 of them that were either box trucks, buses, moving vans, vehicles such as that. The CDLs that were issued to those individuals were issued from over a dozen different states. Many of those individuals could have been licensed in a state somewhere and received their CDL in another state, but overwhelmingly, these individuals have come from sanctuary states such as California and Illinois and New York. If you are here driving on our streets illegally and our highways, you are endangering our citizens and your days are numbered. I want to thank Secretary Sean Duffy from the Department of Transportation for all of his work too. You've seen him focus on the effort to get these individuals off of our streets, and I want to thank him for doing that and implementing new policies and regulations that will keep our citizens safe. Too many families across this country have felt pain and been victimized and lost loved ones because of these illegal drivers. Just earlier this month here in Indiana, we saw an illegal alien from Serbia and Montenegro was operating his semi-truck without a valid commercial license. He swerved into oncoming traffic and killed Jeffrey Eberly. In August, Indian illegal alien killed 3 people in a reckless driving highway incident in Florida. And I think most of you remember the news coverage from that, but the devastating impacts of that loss. That CDL had been issued in California by Governor Gavin Newsom. Just last week, another Indian illegal alien killed 3 Americans on a highway in California. He was intoxicated behind the wheel of his truck. Every single time one of these individuals gets behind the truck, on the wheel of a truck, they are in front of a deadly weapon that can kill other Americans as well. Behind me, you will see 4 different placards of individuals that we're talking about today specifically. These individuals are some of the worst that we've been able to arrest under Operation Midway Blitz. The first one I'll talk about is from Mexico, and this individual was convicted of felony cruelty towards a child. He was also previously found to have possessing a fraudulent driver's license as well, and guilty of that and convicted. The next one is a criminal illegal alien from Mexico who was convicted of vehicle theft and apprehended for possession of a controlled substance. The third individual that you'll see in front of you today is a criminal illegal alien from Nicaragua. This individual was charged with a DUI, then assault with a deadly weapon, possessing narcotics that are for sale, and transporting drugs. He also was convicted for disorderly conduct and prostitution. Another illegal alien from Colombia in front of us, which is the fourth individual I'll talk about today, has an active criminal arrest warrant for theft out of Texas. During these targeted operations that we've conducted in Indiana, we've also arrested several other illegal aliens with wide-ranging criminal histories. 6 of those individuals were convicted of assault, drugs, selling drugs, prostitution, and operating while intoxicated. 5 of those individuals were arrested for drugs, theft, and burglary, and 5 others were arrested for battery, child abuse, domestic battery, and driving while intoxicated and fraud. You can see from the work that these partnerships build on, that we work with other states such as Indiana and Governor Braun and his team, that many dangerous criminal illegal aliens are taken off of our streets, that our laws are upheld, and that Americans are protected because of the operations and the work that's being done. Since the beginning of Midway Blitz, ICE and CBP and our state partners have arrested more than 3,000 illegal aliens, including rapists, murderers, and gang members that have been brought to justice. And listen, we don't want any of these individuals out on our roads, and we don't want them in our communities, and we especially don't want them behind the wheel of an 18-wheeler when they can't speak our language, they don't understand our laws, they can't follow our roadway signs, and they can't interact with law enforcement or our citizens. It's dangerous, and it's not going to happen under the Trump administration like it did under the Biden administration. Thousands and thousands of Americans are protected because of the work that's being done with states such as this. United States Citizenship and Immigration Services is also working to fix some of the safety issues that we've been seeing across our country. They just ended a policy that allowed illegal aliens work permits that automatically renewed those work permits without any additional vetting. That will help us get some of these CDLs out of the hands of individuals who may be driving these trucks right here today. The illegal alien that was charged with throwing an anti-Semitic Molotov cocktail earlier this year in Boulder, Colorado, got a work permit. He got it renewed under the former policy, and he got it with an expired visa. This policy is now changed because of the good work of USCIS. Now people will be re-vetted and have to be reapproved in order to get that work permit that could potentially be used to garner a CDL and get on the street. Law-abiding Americans should be able to use the roads without being scared for their safety. They shouldn't have to worry about themselves or their children or what they're doing when they're going to church, going to work, or going to activities every single day. No father should have to fear being rear-ended by a semi-truck at full speed while he's simply on his way to work to provide for his family. No mother should have to be afraid of an illegal alien running into her with her children when she's got little kids in the back seat in her car seats. I'm a mother and I'm a grandmother, and I can't imagine what would happen or how I would feel if one of my children or grandchildren were hurt by someone who was never supposed to be in our country in the first place, much less behind a truck like this and given permission from an irresponsible, reckless governor like Gavin Newsom or Pritzker or anyone else in this country that chooses to ignore our laws and put illegal criminals ahead of our American citizens. With state partners like Governor Braun and like the state of Indiana, people will be safer, people will be protected, and our laws will matter. That's what's special about this country. It's what's amazing about President Trump and what he's doing to make our streets safer. And I'm so grateful for all of his work and the ability to protect our law enforcement officers as they go out and do their work every day protecting American citizens. And with that, I will turn it over to Governor Braun to make some statements for all of you.
Thank you, Secretary Noem. You know, it's ironic that after serving 6 years in the U.S. Senate, grappling with all these issues, coming back as governor of the crossroads of America, and I want to thank you, the administration, for looking to Indiana on something that probably is impacted more by this than any other state. I mean, when many of the major interstates come through your state, you probably have more of them per square mile, you're going to end up with more issues disproportionately. Irony, I ran a logistics and distribution business for 37 years. And CDLs take a lot of effort to get them, and when they're handed out, like places like California and others have, it puts everyone in peril. The other irony to the whole discussion, and we're doing it right in here, is talking about redistricting. The places that have housed illegal immigrants as being sanctuary states, sanctuary cities, it makes representation disproportionately in their favor. And then,
all right, yet again, you have been listening to Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. She is flanked by the governor of Indiana with regard to all things surrounding Operation Midway Blitz. Border Patrol agents stating it has been a very successful blitz. We'll continue to monitor that press conference throughout the afternoon right here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Well, just under an hour ago, Maryland Governor Wes Moore announced a state of emergency and allocated some $10 million for temporary SNAP relief from the state. He did so from the Anne Arundel County Food Bank. Although it's a step in the right direction, it will only last for so long, about a week or so. The governor saying this.
And I'm angry that we're asking our public servants to do so much because our federal government has decided to leave us behind. What we are seeing from this federal administration is not just cruel, it's illegal. They are breaking the law to show how cruel they can be. That I'm thinking about the work that they are doing and how cruelty has essentially become a governance philosophy of the Trump administration. Because the money is there. They are choosing not to allocate it. The money has been appropriated. They are choosing not to distribute it. This is heartless. This is cruel. And this is unforgivable. And I think about the why we are here, but also the basic necessities that we have to then turn around and provide, because when the federal government says that you are on your own, in the state of Maryland, we say we leave no one behind.
Yet again, Maryland Governor Wes Moore discussing all things regarding the government shutdown. It is evident that he is heaping mad. However, he's not the only one. We are joined now by Congressman Glenn Ivey, representing Maryland's 4th District. Congressman Ivey, it's always good to see you, sir, and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
We see the backdrop with regard to the Washington Monument behind you. It's the it's the monument for the people. In this case, a number of people are outraged with regard to the government shutdown, now venturing halfway through day 30, and yet still no end in sight.
Yeah, we're still fighting to make sure that we can reopen the government, also make sure that the healthcare tax credits under the Affordable Care Act get extended. And now apparently we got to fight to make sure that the Trump administration releases money that is there to feed people that they're holding back for political purposes. They're weaponizing hunger to try and advance their political goals, and I think that's immoral and illegal.
We just heard the governor state that the Trump administration, in essence, is uniquely affecting the residents of Maryland. How so? Well, because it's detrimental to Maryland because there's no other state that happens to be affected more than the government shutdown. And so with that being said, sir, I'm curious, are you optimistic that we will eventually get to the end of this and that, well, we don't have to declare a state of emergency in order to provide benefits for those that deserve them?
Well, the Trump administration can fix that immediately if they would just say, you know, we're going to release those funds that have been allocated already so we can use it to buy food for people or allow them to buy food for themselves. That'd be the end of the SNAP issue. We'd still have the government shutdown to fight about. But making sure people don't go hungry seems like an important first step. The next big step that needs to happen is the House Republicans need to come back to Washington. They've been gone for almost 6 weeks now, absent without leave, need to come back and do their job so we can get through this crisis resolved and find a bipartisan resolution.
The governor also stating that President Trump, in essence, is breaking the law and that Maryland is now one of the first states to sue and push, well, quite honestly, push for rights because, as Governor Wes Moore puts it, a number of children will now go hungry as a result of the president's actions.
Yeah, he's correct. Fortunately, we've got, I think it's 25 states, their attorneys general have filed lawsuits, or a lawsuit, to try and force the Trump administration to do what it should with the money, which is allocated so that it can be used by people to buy food. It's sad that we've got to, go to court and ask a judge to compel them to do that. And it just adds to the challenge from a timing standpoint, too, because Saturday's when the funds are no longer available. So trying to hustle this through court can be tough. But we didn't have any other options, so we had to bring the lawsuit. I commend Anthony Brown for doing that. And we can also continue to try and step in and fill the gap, which is what the governor did with the $10 million effort. And I want to thank the faith community, too. A lot of them have been really standing up and trying to help members in their congregations and in their communities by providing food and other assistance. So all hands on deck. I thank all the people who've stepped up.
Yet again, the governor allocating some $10 million in funds to relieve those that are soon be relieved with regard to the SNAP benefits. A step in the right direction, but let's be honest, sir, it's just a drop in the bucket. And we know that the Trump administration perhaps, well, they could release some $5 billion in contingency funds for a nationwide relief. Do you think that will happen? And should it happen, what will you do?
Well, there's no state in the nation that can actually fill the gap that the federal government is supposed to be, filling right now by providing these funds. And that's the reason Congress appropriated the money to the fund so that it could be used in this way. So I think you got 50 states. I know some of them are led by Republicans, some are red, some are blue, but they're all going to be hurting because, the SNAP needs, I think it's 42 million people across the country. They're not just in blue states, they're in red states too. And the refusal to reimburse states, which is another thing the Trump administration has stated, I think is just outrageous. So the states are going to have to step in and try and make sure that people don't go hungry until either the court orders the Trump administration to do the right thing or until the Trump administration comes to its senses.
Congressman Ivey, will end with this, and that is there happen to be viewers right now that are watching this, and perhaps it's a single mom at home. She's now been furloughed, and or she just wants to go back to work. She perhaps may even need SNAP benefits. What can you say to her to know that truly there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and at some point we will all get to that light?
Yeah, I mean, we were out, Steny Hoyer and I went out to a food distribution center, I think it was a day ago, where we had 500 federal government employees standing in line to try and get food to make it through the day. And what they said to me was that these are tough times for them. They're really challenging. They're hurting, but they also understand the importance of this fight. They know that we, need to meet the moment and fight to make sure the government gets reopened, that the health care benefits are restored, and the SNAP benefits are available as well.
Yet again, we have been speaking with Congressman Glenn Ivey, representing Maryland's 4th District. Congressman, I truly appreciate your time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, folks, we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. Back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone, out of curiosity, by a show of hands, how many of you are familiar with the slow down, move over laws? Well, quite honestly, I should see more hands than that. Otherwise, you are putting roadside responders at risk. A new AAA Foundation study finds most drivers are unaware of or misunderstand the laws, leading to dangerous gaps in compliance. Joining us now to discuss this and so much more is Ms. Regina Ali, Public and Government Affairs Manager for AAA Mid-Atlantic, back on the Live Zone. Always good to see you, Regina. Welcome back to the show.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me. We really love to discuss this very important topic. Thank you so much.
Well, you hit the nail right on the head. This is truly important. And I got to say, I guess I owe you an apology because I wasn't familiar, wasn't aware. And if that's the case for me, I'm pretty sure a lot of my viewers are saying the same thing. And that's why we want to bring more awareness to this. Last year, some 46 emergency responders never made it home, Regina. That alone is concerning. And well, they were police officers, firefighters, EMTs, and tow truck operators stuck, or shall I say struck, while assisting others on the roadside. Yet again, slow down and move over.
That's it. That's the message, my friends. Slow down and move over. So what we are continually finding at AAA through our foundation of traffic, AAA's Foundation of Traffic Safety, I'm tongue-tied today, through our research, what we're continuing to find is even if drivers have heard of these laws, about 2/3 of drivers are saying they've heard of them, but what they don't know is exactly what they mean, how it's applied in their state, what the law entails. So literally there is some form of this law, slow down and move over, in every state in this country, including the district. And the laws do vary from state to state, but ultimately what they require drivers to do is to slow down. That's part one, right? And if it's safe to do so, move over one lane. So that is to provide protections to our police, our firefighters, EMTs, our tow truck drivers, those who are literally putting their lives on the line to protect us. And we're seeing that despite these laws on the books, as you mentioned, 46 emergency responders lost their lives last year on the roadways. On average, it's about 50 per year.
Wow.
Across the country. And we are really troubled, obviously, by the findings and really want to, AAA was very instrumental in getting these laws passed across the country. They've kind of passed incrementally in most states where initially they were put on the books, and the first group was obviously our police and law enforcement, EMTs, and it's gradually increased to include other groups. Particularly, we were obviously also very concerned. We fought for the police to have it, but we also fought for tow truck operators to have it. Obviously, our emergency roadside crews are out there responding to members' calls across the country, thousands and thousands per day. So we're trying to obviously make sure they're protected as well. And then the law has incrementally, again, expanded in Virginia and Maryland to even include disabled motorists at the roadside as long as they have their flashers on or some sort of visual display. So we're trying to protect everyone that is at the side of the road in an emergency situation.
Yeah, yet again, they are our first responders and deserve to go home safely. You know, one of the things that I thought about, Regina, is that, typically when I first saw this story, what came to mind for me happened to be drivers that perhaps were impaired, drinking and driving. But maybe that's the case sometimes, but I would assume one could argue that that's not the case most of the time. And so that means, yet again, slow down and move over, because accidents could happen even if you're not impaired.
Certainly, and we see that with crashes, sometimes people are impaired, sometimes they're distracted, sometimes they're drowsy. We've had AAA tow truck operators struck where, unfortunately, too, we've seen incidents where someone's had a medical emergency behind the wheel and then swerved in and, struck a police officer or struck a tow truck driver. So the importance of the law is obviously if you're not impaired or having some sort of health emergency, you should be cognizant of what these laws are and slowing down and moving over when you're even beginning to approach an emergency vehicle at the side of the road, or in the cases of Maryland and Virginia, a disabled motorist. And I believe quite a few other states now have that law in the books as it relates. I think if you know that the law exists in every state, the safest thing to do is to slow down and move over. And what we'd also like to see at AAA is some sort of consistent language on what slow down means. Because with our study, what we found was 64% of drivers did move over or slow down, okay? 36% did nothing. And this was looking at real world footage from June 2024 to June 2025 across 13 states. So very few actually slowed down and moved over, but the vast majority did one or the other, but a large portion, 36%, did nothing. They just continued away.
Yet again, very troubling. And that's why it's, well, AAA to the rescue. And what do I mean by that? You all are raising public awareness through emotionally compelling, visually clear campaigns that really humanize the impact of noncompliance. I absolutely love this, Regina. It's needed.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And what you said is so true, the humanizing factor. As you know, I'm former law enforcement, and I've been doing this advocacy work for AAA for over 20 years now. And it's so important, and saving lives is core of AAA's mission, working with other traffic safety advocates, others with the same interests across the country, and in our own backwoods here, in our own back door. So it's important, and we wanted to continue to humanize this. This is, we're seeing police officers still struck. These are folks that are going out, to help us, and sometimes don't make it home to their families. So if it's so simple for a driver to simply slow down and move over, it's certainly incumbent upon us as drivers to do that, to do our part, to protect those that are out there protecting us.
Yet again, you all are doing a great job at that. Before I let you go, I just really want to touch on tomorrow. Obviously, there are going to be a lot of kiddos out and about trick-or-treating, as Halloween will be in full force. And with that, there are going to be a lot of drivers on the road as well. It's getting darker earlier, and well, I can already predict it, and I hope this doesn't happen, but perhaps we will see an incident or two with regard to someone being struck because, yet again, they were distracted and or impaired. I'm hoping you can stress the importance, not necessarily from the pedestrian standpoint, but from those that are behind the wheel, of making sure they look out for the kiddos and everyone out and about tomorrow.
Absolutely, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to touch upon that as well. Certainly near and dear to AAA, the traffic safety and keeping our kids safe tomorrow night. It's a Friday evening, so I know in my neighborhood it's a big deal, so we're expecting even more kids coming through because it's a Friday night. Kids, I think, have a day at school in some jurisdictions, so it's a big deal. And again, as drivers, make sure that you're looking out for the kids, make sure whether it's in a neighborhood or through, major busier streets. They may be in dark clothing. Hopefully they're not. Hopefully their parents have them illuminated in a way that drivers can see them. But it's important that drivers are slowing down, using caution, scanning the roadways. As you mentioned, it's getting darker earlier. We have the change of time happening Saturday night, Sunday morning. So again, all very important things. And we know that a lot of people celebrate, obviously, over the Halloween holiday weekend. And again, it's a Friday. So if you do plan on celebrating, and that includes drinking, make sure that you have designated a sober driver or take a ride share before getting behind the wheel after partying this Halloween weekend.
Well said. Yet again, we have been speaking with Regina Ali, Public and Government Affairs Manager for AAA Mid-Atlantic. I truly appreciate your time.
Thank you, Guy. Be safe out there.
Will do. All right, folks, we're going to take you back to the state of Indiana, where Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem now taking questions, all of which surrounding the Operation Midway Blitz. Let's go ahead and take a live look in.
Yeah, so as far as the 287G program goes, we're able to then partner with the state entity. They're able to go out and conduct arrests in their day-to-day duties. When they come across somebody that is a criminal illegal alien, they're then able to turn them over to our custody. At these way stations, we're able to walk beside these officers and have this joint partnership, thanks to the Indiana State Police, that is a truly historic opportunity for us to do something that we can look at expanding nationwide. And as Governor Braun said, this is really a model that we can use all throughout the country thanks to his leadership and his team's leadership.
What's that? It's in the Midway Blitz operation, which includes Indiana, Chicago, Illinois, in that area that field office is covering. Yes, sir. Okay. No, when you talk about people that have left this country using the CBP Home app, those who voluntarily left, those that we have actively detained and deported, that number is over 2 million people since the Trump administration has come into the White House. That is an incredible, record-shattering number of individuals who were here illegally that are now gone. And when you think about the ripple effects of that, the amount of resources that frees up to focus on the American citizens, it's remarkable the good work that President Trump has been able to do. I would say that by the end of this year, those individuals who have been detained or arrested and deported will be over 600 to 650,000, and then we include many more that are still voluntarily going home on their own as well. No, those that are turned away at the border are not recorded in those that are detained and arrested. You know, the Biden administration, was very corrupt in how they recorded their arrest numbers, and every single person that they interacted with at the border, they counted as an arrest, even though they facilitated them into this country. We aren't doing that. We're being honest with the American people and letting them know the facts of who in this country has been detained and who it is that we're removing back to their home countries. Yes. Well, we're pushing sanctuary states to stop issuing driver's licenses to people who are illegal aliens. Many of them are doing it. In fact, we've seen over a dozen different states that actively hand out driver's licenses to individuals who should never get one. As you know, the Department of Homeland Security is implementing the 20-year-old law that requires a real ID, which requires legal status in this country. It requires you to show where you live and who you are. That real ID is implemented in many states across this country, but some of these sanctuary states, such as California, New York, Illinois, are not doing that. And that's allowing those individuals then who are here illegally to go get licensed and get a commercial driver's license and then get behind a truck like this that soon becomes a weapon if they don't know how to operate it properly. One last question.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. 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 Oh, we can get that for you. Those are individuals that have been detained, that we've interacted with, that were here illegally, committed crimes, or had final orders of removal issued against them, and then are in the process of returning back to their home countries. So think of that. Thousands of individuals that were committing crimes, that have broken our laws and come into this country that shouldn't be here, that because of the good work of our law enforcement now will be returned back home to their home countries. And remember, many of these countries are thankful to have them back. Their economies have changed. They have an ability to provide them with training and jobs and housing and are welcoming them home. We have great partnerships internationally with dozens and dozens of countries who are helping us to facilitate this movement back home. So we are grateful for that, but we're going to continue to do the work. If you remember, the last administration has brought in 15 to 20 million illegal people into this country and facilitated an invasion over our southern border that we not only stopped when President Trump came into office, but now we're going to remove those individuals out of our country and make sure that we're putting American citizens first. We will not talk about that. We will keep it going, and we will continue to operate, and we'll continue to do this work until there are no longer anybody out on our roads and in our communities that's here illegally. Thank you.
All right, guys, there you have it. Yet again, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem discussing all things surrounding Operation Midway Blitz. As she put it, it has been quite successful. Her critics, meanwhile, state otherwise. We will continue to monitor that throughout the afternoon right here on the Live Zone. Switching gears here, we know that prior to the start of the season, the Washington Wizards have won a total of 33 games in the last 2 seasons. And, well, the rebuild, not really over. Now that they've acquired 3 second draft guys, A.J. Johnson, Cam Whitmore, and Dylan Jones, they have 9 players on the roster who were picked in the first round of the last 3 drafts. As it stands now, the Wizards are 1-3 after falling to the 76ers Tuesday night. So the question remains, are they headed in the right direction? Well, let's get the answer to that. At least we hope to. Joining us to discuss this is Dr. Portia Grant, former professional and Division I basketball player, now a dedicated sports enthusiast, and as I like to call her, a sports analyst extraordinaire. Dr. Grant, always good to see you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's jump right into this. Anything stand out to you thus far with the Washington Wizards? Have embarked on a new season?
Absolutely. The other day, they seemed very energized to start the game, even in warm-ups. They played a great first quarter with 40 points in the first quarter. It started off to a great high-scoring game. The Wizards made 4 out of 8 threes in the first quarter, which isn't bad to be 50% from behind the arc. And I really appreciated the battle of the 7-footers, which I like to call it, between Joel Embiid and Alex Sarr in the first quarter. I think they really started off the game with a great tenacity.
Yeah, you know what? I was going to say, Joey, put me full screen because, or a half screen. Keep her on as well, because it's funny you made mention of the 7-footers, because the other day I had a chance to have a conversation with you in person. I think I come up to your elbow. So I know you like those tall guys, as you should. And so do we when they play for the Washington Wizards, and do an amazing job. So with that being said, Dr. Grant, we got a chance to see the Wizards, well, really show up and show out, at least up until halftime the other day, as they took on, as you heard me make mention, the 76ers, and then it all came crumbling down. We've seen that time and time again. Do you think that they're going to be able to, well, turn that all around?
Well, this has been a recurring theme for the Wizards, and I think that the organization has already accepted that since they are kind of in a rebuilding phase. I really think that they have already anticipated these challenges, and when you look at the whole game, they didn't really show up or win all 4 quarters, of course, or overtime. They won the first quarter and the third quarter where they outscored the 76ers, but then in the other quarters, they just ran out of gas, so they just got to string all 4 quarters together.
Yeah, they need some of that nitro. I got to tell you, because, well, Wizards fans are starting to get somewhat anxious and want to see them succeed. And so with that being said, we know, yes, they're in the rebuilding phase. But at what point, when, dear God, can it happen, will they be a successful team?
Well, you look at some teams that are able to rebuild within 2 to 4 years, right? When one regime leaves and then they find these phenomenal players. A good example that I like to use is the Dallas Mavericks. When Dirk Nowitzki retired, they went through a little lull, and then they drafted Luka Doncic. Right. When you have a player of that caliber, it's easier to rebuild a team a little quicker. But then when you take a look at OKC and the Thunder, I know you remember when KD, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden were there. After they left, it took about 5 or 6 years for them to rebuild. They drafted SGA in 2019, I believe. And then in 2025, they were the world champions. So it just depends on what the focus of the team is. And I think that they're more along the lines of the 5 to 6 year stretch. And them turning the team around, I think, is going to depend on how they're going to position themselves with their future draft picks, especially with this class of 2026, the player development, and the coach's ability to keep them involved and motivated.
Yeah, the key is motivation, and I got my fingers crossed with that, and that's what we'll end on. You played professional basketball, and so with that being said, perhaps maybe you've experienced something like this, and what I'm getting at is that it stinks not to win. And I would assume that a player could get down in the dumps. But that's when when the coach is supposed to stand up and say, you know what, we're going to get through this and we're going to win. Do you think the Wizards have that coach in place? And if so, is that the conversation, the message rather, that you would want to hear from the coach to you as a player?
Absolutely. When you have one bad season, it's like, okay. But to have 2 bad seasons or not so great seasons back to back, those players that are still there and haven't actually been traded, they're there for a reason. And then, coaches know in this business of sports that you're going to have rough patches. And it's great when people can, be resilient against, and players can be resilient against adversity. To me, when I'm even at the games, I see that the coaching staff, they do have a winning attitude, which is nice to see. And players mirror that. Right? If you're walking around like, oh my goodness, we lost again, that's not a good attitude to have as a coach. But I think that the coaches are doing a great job with keeping the players engaged. I haven't been able to get to a practice, but they're engaged in the timeouts. I'm not sure if you watched the game the other night when one of their teammates fell and all of the players off the bench went to pick up their teammates. So I think that the players are staying motivated and they think that change is going to come very soon in the near future within the next season.
Well, yet again, fingers crossed. I got about 40 seconds left, and with that being said, we know that tonight the Wizards are going to take on the Oklahoma City Thunder, which, by the way, they are now undefeated. You think they're going to come out victorious, they being the Washington Wizards?
I hope that they stick to the game plan and they are executing the things that the coaching staff has implemented in their past couple of practices. And I'm waiting to see what happens.
All right. Well, I guess we'll both have to just wait and see, and we'll find out sometime later on this evening. Yet again, we have been speaking with Dr. Portia Grant, former professional basketball player and D1 player, right here on the Live Zone. I truly appreciate your time. This was fun.
Thank you, Guy.
You're welcome. All right, folks. It is now 1 o'clock. Yes, the top of the hour. You are taking a live look at the House. Somewhat of a dreary day. We know later this evening, President Trump set to return from his trip over in Asia and join the First Lady for trick-or-treating. That's due to happen later this evening. In the meantime, we're dealing with partly cloudy skies with scattered showers off and on. The good news is that, well, come tomorrow, we're expecting partly sunny skies as the kiddos go out to trick-or-treat. Guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone, does the name Raphael Lemkin ring a bell? It should. He is the Polish-Jewish scholar who coined the word genocide. He did so to describe the systematic extermination of the Jewish people during the Holocaust. 8 decades later, members of the European Jewish Association are speaking out against what they call a dangerous distortion of Lemkin's legacy. The organization is calling on the Lemkin Institute for Genocide Prevention, which has accused Israel of genocide, to change its name and restore honor to the word's original intent. Joining us now to discuss this and so much more, our friend is back, Mr. Harley Lipman, board member of the European Jewish Association. Harley, it's always good to see you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Good to be here.
All right, so what is the European Jewish Association's main concern with regard to the Lemkin Institute and its use of the term genocide against Israel?
Well, what they're doing is they're misappropriating his name. Raphael Lemkin, who, as you mentioned, coined the phrase, who lost over 50 members of his family in the Holocaust. And his work was so important that he was nominated 10 times for the Nobel Peace Prize and worked tirelessly for 6 decades to promote peace and to fight against intolerance. Now, someone comes along taking his name and using it, weaponizing it against Israel and its supporters. That's the equivalent of someone using Martin Luther's name to fight for, to support racism. That would be the equivalent of using Maria Teresa's name to, instead of supporting kindness, to promote cruelty. That's how extraordinarily evil this is. Martin Luther King promoted tolerance, peace. If you used his name to actually support racism, think how outrageous this is. That's what's happening here.
Yeah.
They're using it to attack Israel in a way to smear Israel, delegitimize Israel, and they're anti-Semites in doing so. There's no other way to describe it.
Harley, you have been working very closely with members of the Lemkin family, and I'm curious, what does this issue really represent to them personally?
Well, it's deeply, deeply painful for them that their relative, their father and grandfather, who devoted his life to preventing genocide, it's now being turned on its head. And to give you, so they're very distressed by this, to say the least. It's traumatic for them. And to prove the bad faith of this group that has created the Lemkin Institute, which is what his last name is, within days of the attack by Hamas on October 7th that we all know about, they supported it. Say it's a legitimate response to imperialism, if you will. And they attacked Israel within 5 days of the war for genocide. Israel barely responded in 5 days. Israel was in shock and unprepared. So the fact that they accused Israel After Hamas crossed the border and raped and tortured and murdered, and then Israel went to get their hostages back, barely fighting and killing any Gazans at this point, they accuse Israel of genocide. So that's real proof they're not acting in good faith. The war was just beginning in Gaza, and the only genocide we saw was Hamas killing every Jewish man, woman, and child they could get a hold of. A 1-year-old baby they would murder and decapitate. Elderly people in wheelchairs they would burn alive in front of their families. That's genocide. So the struggle we have here in the family is that they're taking something and turning it upside down to use it as a weapon against Jews and against Israel to further grow anti-Semitism.
Harley, we know that there are now calls for a name change, and yet again interested and curious with regard to that. What do you believe is at stake overall with regard to this debate?
Well, it goes to the heart of intellectual honesty. It goes to the heart of truth. It goes to the heart you can't misappropriate somebody's name. I keep on going back to Martin Luther King because universally he is seen as a man who fought against racism. So I know I keep on bringing it up, but it's just worth mentioning again. This is the equivalent of people using his name to promote racism, to, let's say, support slavery in the South before the Civil War. Think how unconscionable, how outrageous it would be to African Americans and to any human being. Well, that's the exact same thing that's happening now to the Jewish people by taking his name and using it against Israel and the Jewish people. And what makes it so much more egregious is also what they're doing is illegal. They set up a 501c3 to save money for having a tax exemption. And the rules are clear. You can't use it to make political advocacy. But they're doing exactly that. They're using political advocacy. So on a deeper level, to your good question, the only weapon that minorities have is the truth. And so when someone turns it upside down, it's very sinister and could be very effective. And the truth is the only thing that will save us at the end of the day. So we need the truth to come out.
Yeah, as they say, the truth will always prevail. We'll end with this, Harley, and that is, what do you think overall will come from this campaign beyond the name change? And what I mean by that, I'm thinking in terms of education, truth, and obviously accountability.
You nailed it. This is exactly what we're fighting for, EJA and other organizations. You know, that ever since the Holocaust, Jews in particular thought, the lessons had been learned. And we all have been in shock and traumatized. I am traumatized that what we saw on October 7th, and this speaks to this, in some ways was even worse than the Holocaust. The level of personal brutality and savagery with torture and extensive rape and humiliation. And so we're entering a new world where guardrails are off, red lines are gone. We're entering a world of middle-aged savagery where you could say and do anything in the pursuit of power and turn on innocent people and in a very malicious way, take real crimes that have happened and reverse it and turn it on the victims. So this holds a lot of interest for the future, as we don't want the truth to be distorted and misappropriated.
Yet again, that's why we make sure the truth prevails here on the Live Zone. We have been speaking with none other than Harley Littman, board member of the European Jewish Association. Always good to see you, my friend. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
All right, folks, we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Should cities dispatch armed police officers in response to mental health crisis 911 calls? That's now being debated by elected officials, candidates for office, and voters who are all considering alternative approaches. Joining us now to discuss this and so much more is Dr. Jessica Gillooly, an assistant professor of sociology and criminal justice, kind enough to join us on the Live Zone. Dr. Gillooly, thank you so much for being patient and joining us on the show.
Of course. Good morning.
So I'm curious, at what point did this really become a part of a national discussion, if you will, and why?
So I think after the police killing of George Floyd in 2020, there was a large movement to try and rethink the way the 911 system and police respond to calls from the public. There's been growing support for changes to our responses to behavioral health calls, especially. Over 100 cities now have implemented some form of alternative response program where unarmed civilian responders can go out to try and provide people care in the moment instead of the police.
Yeah, one of the interesting things when I took a look at this study that I discovered is that there are several cities that are actually sending trained mental health workers to some 911 calls. That's somewhat different, is it not?
So that's part of the alternative response movement, really thinking about which responders could go instead of police. So sometimes that is licensed social workers, it can be clinicians, as you mentioned, it can be peers with lived experience, or EMTs and paramedics. So cities like Denver, Albuquerque, San Francisco, Durham, they've got these programs off the ground and they send some mix, usually 2 or 3 different types of responders will go out to a 911 call.
Yeah, yet again, very interesting. I think this is actually a good thing. And, you know, not that my opinion matters, but yet again, we are always looking for ways in order to do better. And this is perhaps one way to do just that. What have researchers learned from cities that have launched alternative response programs, and what questions now, if you will, are still being studied and or examined?
Yeah, so we're really in the middle of a national experiment right now about rethinking how the 911 system works. So there's some early results out of Durham, North Carolina that are really promising. Their team HEART was launched in 2022. They've responded to 32,000 calls, and their responders have only called for police backup in less than 0.5% of those interactions. And their responders report feeling very safe. 99% surveyed have said they feel safe on these calls. So sometimes there can be concerns how responders will feel going out to certain calls, but it's just not panning out in the data that a lot of safety or danger risks are coming up in these calls. So I think that's really promising.
And so obviously that's what's promising, but we also have to look at the flip side of the coin, and that would be the challenges, if you will, that the cities face when implementing these programs.
Yeah, so there are some big implementation challenges. One is around resources. So how do you create stable funding streams, staffing issues? How do you get enough folks who can work in these programs, especially when some of them are master's level workers? It can be expensive to run these programs at times. And there are also issues inside 911 itself. So a lot of my research is about how call takers make decisions about whether or not to send an alternative response or police. That can be a tough call in practice, right? Most people don't call 911 saying, I'm having a low-risk behavioral health crisis, right? Call takers have to sort of interpret and sift through a lot of information to see if this is a call that would qualify for that sort of response. So thinking about how we can support those who work inside call centers to make these decisions is really critical right now.
Ma'am, one of the things that I guess we can say about you is not only do you talk the talk, but you walk the walk. And what I mean by that is that you have your own experience working as a 911 call taker. Do tell.
Yeah, so I worked as a 911 call taker in grad school in Southeast Michigan for 2 years. I did this part-time while in school. And one of the things that really struck me was that this was a one-size-fits-all system. Really, regardless of what people called 911 about, whether it was someone in crisis, someone loitering, someone trespassing, a noise complaint, a family conflict, the response was to always send the police. It just didn't feel like that was the response that always made the most sense for the police or for the people calling. And so I'm excited that there is this new sort of portfolio of options that cities are sifting through to think about what calls could we maybe shift to other responders. And going back to Durham for a moment, their data analysis finds that their alternative response program is saving about 8,000 hours of police time per year. So that's free police up to do sort of more traditional police work. So this isn't replacing police. It's really thinking about how do we get the best response out there to people in crisis.
Yeah, I think no matter what side of the fence you sit on, we all want the best response possible, and apparently this is the way to go about it. Yet again, we have been speaking with Dr. Jessica Gil-Lully, kind enough to join us on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Thank you so very much for your time, ma'am.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. All right, folks, we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Well, success as we currently know it has affected families, motherhood, and women specifically, because success is defined by how much money one has and what role one plays in society. Well, many women will sacrifice their children to become successful. My next guest says society has programmed women to believe that success comes through the power of a career and that independence comes from producing money. I'm referring to none other than Miss Chelsea Ann. She is a board-certified nurse practitioner, a modern healer, podcast host, and oh, by the way, author. The name of the book? It's dubbed The Feminine Effect, Discovering Your True Nature. She now joins us on the Live Zone. Good to see you and welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much, Guy. It's so wonderful to be here. What an introduction. I'm excited to speak with your audience.
Well, I'm excited to hear what you have to say because I just think this is oh so cool. You say your mission is to really help women take back their authenticity. Do tell.
Yes, so I can't define success for all women, but I can tell you my own story. When you make it to the top and you are striving in your career, looking for financial success, always looking for the carrot that's dangling outside of yourself, and you don't feel happy in that moment, I think I can relate to a lot of women who may be there where you make it to the top and you're still not happy. Why not? Well, what this book teaches is that women are not necessarily in their nature, their feminine nature. So how do you get there? And this was a transformational process that I documented and take women through of returning to your nature as a woman. And what are those values and how do you find them for yourself? What's the path?
Yeah. Gosh, I absolutely love this. And, it's really needed, is it not?
It's so needed because I think women don't realize that a lot of the mental and physical, emotional, and even, chaotic experiences in their life, such as divorce or relationship issues, may come from the fact that they need to touch back into their femininity and redefine what success is based on that.
I'm thinking about troubling issues. And why am I thinking about troubling issues? Because perhaps some of us have all experienced just that at one point in our lives. And with that being said, you say yet again that, well, dealing with something like that can lead to clear understandings and growth. Oh, do tell.
So I want to leave everybody with 3 strategies of how you can, learn how to return to your femininity. And here I'm speaking just to women. First off, you need to begin to know yourself. So know whether that's a vision board, whether that's understanding your values, your family values. Number 2, you need to know what you need in your life to return into your femininity. And so that may be taking a step back from the survival in the race and creating space in your life to see what takes you out of that feminine nature. And number 3, be able to attain the success that you're looking for. So if you're looking on social media and you're looking to society to define power and success for you, it may not be right. And a lot of this work is about returning women to motherhood and seeing that relationships and this connection and community and intuition and knowing can be just as powerful and just as successful for yourself.
Yeah. You have an amazing story, by the way. I got a chance to obviously do my research, and I am just so impressed with where you've been and where you're at now. What's that song, Started from the Bottom, Now We're Here? Well, you're here in a major way, and you're helping others. And one of the things that, perhaps that I'm hoping you can share is that you stated that you should really keep painful childhood secrets, those that have done so. If you do it, perhaps it could really affect your marriage. So you should not keep that. You should be vocal about it. And is that the case?
I love that you're bringing that up, Guy, because those secrets are your conditioning. And a lot of our ability, this connection from our femininity is from our conditioning, from society, from our childhood, from any of these, painful things that close our heart. And the way you return to your nature as a woman, as I'm speaking to women, is you have to open your heart. And so you have to touch into that pain. And honestly, it's like an onion that needs to be peeled and felt, because then you're not moving from the logic of your mind, you're moving from your heart. And that heart-based love and connection is what I think our world needs right now.
All right. And here's the big moment for me, because when I read this, and it's a question I'm about to pose, before I even pose it, the utmost respect to you, ma'am, because what I'm going to say is you wish you could go back and give your ex-husband a hug back in time. That is just such an amazing thing to hear. Why did you state that? Why would you do that?
Well, this book goes into a transformational process of the heart-opening experience that women can go through. It takes you step by step through that. So can you go through such a torrential, honestly, downpour or difficult time and then love the person that it took you through that, catalyst experience? Can you love them? And if you can love them, that's the femininity I'm speaking about. It's not separation. It's not disliking another for whatever reason. It's returning to that love and togetherness again.
Yeah. Yet again, all credit goes to you. That's a big thing to say. And I've learned from it just by listening to what you had to say regarding that. Staying within that realm, correct me if I'm wrong, but perhaps a part of the downfall of the marriage surrounded, competing with your now ex-husband.
I think that's a downfall of a lot of marriages, to be honest, Guy. I think that women, we are often trying to be, I'm speaking for myself here. I don't want to speak for everyone, but I was trying to be something I wasn't. And as I was striving, as I was competing, as I was, if you're 2 horses galloping at the same pace, there's no polarity. And you become, the masculine takes over the women oftentimes. And so that can create problems within the marriage, because then where are the children? Where's the importance? Where are your values? And so when you return to what's really important to you as a woman and you understand, if you connect back to that, the marriage can go back into balance. And that's also what I'm teaching here is not to destroy that.
Wow. So, Chelsea, if you folks that watch this show know what I'm going to ask next, and I always do it when I have an author on, and that is, obviously it's an amazing book, but if we just had one chapter to read, one chapter, which chapter would that be for you, and why?
Oh, the last 2 chapters. because I take people on a journey in this book, and I take them through an emotional journey. And I really say in the beginning, I'm going to trigger you. You're not going to like me. You're going to love me. You're going to be jealous. You're going to think, you're going to look at entitlement. And then in the end, I'm going to open your heart and show you how to begin to love yourself and to love your children and to love anyone you ever thought you couldn't. And I have to say, Guy, that almost every single woman who has read this book has been blown away that I delivered. And so I would say by the last 2 chapters, you're going to get to that place and see the energy of the book and how it takes
Obviously,
you over, really.
Yeah. Obviously, a book, yet again, that focuses on all things women. And we'll end with this, and that is, obviously, there's a flip side of the coin, and that happens to be us guys. And why do I bring that up? Lord knows I need help. And what I mean by that is, what can I do better? What can men do better in order to really assist with this process? It's so needed, I think.
Well, I think as women begin to return to their nature, and I think it's inevitable that it will happen, I think that any change is challenging. And it's going to be kind of shocking, just as fast as jean trends can change or yoga pants can change. I do believe there will be a trend, as we're seeing in public, trad wives or on social media. It'll come down into almost a spiritual, mental, and emotional process that women will go through. And I think that men will begin to really appreciate that polarity again of the feminine and the masculine. And so as we go through that, I just hope that just be excited and be happy for it, because it's going to be great for families.
Well said. Yet again, we have been speaking with Chelsea Gann. She is the author of The Feminine Effect, Discovering Your True Nature. I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much, Chelsea.
Thank you, Guy. It was wonderful to be here. Have a great day.
You too. All right, folks, we'll take a quick break. Hey, on the flip side of that break, producer Chris joins us. Yes, host of Do You Like It or Not and Live Zone Primetime. He's coming up next, right here on the LZ. Guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone, we are still in celebratory mode. Why? Because, well, we're talking about Live Zone Prime Time with this guy.
That's right. Yeah, the PM version, primetime version.
New show.
Live. It is a new show, and it's exciting, and it's fun, and it's spontaneous, and every single night's a little bit different. We never really know exactly what's going to happen, so, it's fun to join. Plus, we keep that Zoom room that we use at 7:30 open, so anyone can join at any time if they want to weigh in on the topics we're talking about, or just, let us know what's going on.
All right, 9 o'clock right here on the Fox Local app.
Speaking of celebrations, do you know what today is the anniversary of?
No.
6 years ago today, the Washington Nationals
What?
won the World Series.
Wow.
That's right. They beat the Houston Astros. Game 7, I remember it well because we were also planning the Halloween show the next day, and we were like,
Yeah.
what the hell are we going to do if they win the World Series the night before? But we made it work. That was a big Halloween show, too. You're going to want to tune in tomorrow and see how we top that. However, it's the dawn of a new chapter for the Washington Nationals because there are multiple reports out there, ESPN the first to name it, that the team may have hired a new skipper, finalizing a deal to hire a guy named Blake Butera. So remember, the Nationals fired Davey Martinez back in July after 6 straight losing seasons since they clinched that World Series. Now, here's what's super interesting about Blake Butera. He is only 33 years old, would be the youngest manager in the MLB in over 50 years, the youngest since 1972. Before this, he was a senior director of player development in the Tampa Bay organization.
Okay.
He played 2 seasons in the Rays minor league system. He was a bench coach for Hudson Valley before becoming manager the following year. He was the youngest manager in minor league baseball at the ripe young age of 25 years old. He also managed in Charleston for 2 seasons. No official word from the Nationals organization at this point, but multiple sports, reporters have said this is all but official. Washington also parted ways with their former general manager, Mike Rizzo, over the summer
I remember
as
that.
well, but they named Paul Tabani the new president of baseball operations late last month.
Interesting.
So the team's in a rebuilding phase still.
Yeah.
It has been slow going. Obviously, the season, I don't think they'll make an official announcement until after the World Series is over. But after last 2 nights' games, it looks like Toronto may
tomorrow night.
Maybe, so the next game, game 6?
5.
No, 5 was last night.
Yeah,
so
6.
they're up 3.
Okay.
Toronto's up 3-2.
You're right.
Game 6 tomorrow night, right here on Fox 5.
Interesting. So he's still a kid. I kind of like it.
So young. Walters, the sports bar right across from Nationals Park, they actually posted on X after this news broke that they're still going to cart him at the door.
I love that. It's a great bar, by the way.
It's a great bar.
Yeah. But what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over. Try something new. Who knows? He seems, based on his rapid progression through the minor league system, being named to these prominent positions at such a young age, that it seems like, especially the Rays seemed to have some faith in him and trusted that he knew what he was doing. So okay. Well, we'll see. Let's go Nats.
We shall see. All right, speaking of athletic endeavors features, last night on the Live Zone Primetime, we talked to the brains behind what is being called the DC Taco Bell 50K. Now, this is not sponsored by Taco Bell. It is just fueled by it. It is a 31-mile race that includes 9 Taco Bell stops. You have to eat certain things at each one. You have to accomplish certain things. This is coming up in late November, shortly after Thanksgiving, so don't overstuff yourself then. Last night, Michael Wardian, he is the ultra marathoner who had kind of inspired and came up with this idea. And we talked to him all about some of the rules for it. Take a listen.
The rules for us, because it's not just 31 miles, it's not just 9 Taco Bells. There are also specific things you have to eat and specific things you cannot do.
That's true, yeah. So there's you gotta like, so our rules, you gotta go to all 9 Taco Bells. You gotta eat something at each Taco Bell. Drinks do not count. So no drinks. You can have sides, which is kind of cool. You must eat by the 4th stop. You got to eat at least a Chalupa Supreme or 1 Crunch Wrap Supreme. And like, I'm vegan, so like there are dietary restrictions like are accepted. So like that was one thing I was a little worried about when we were setting this up. And by the 8th stop, you got to eat a Burrito Supreme or 1 Nacho Bell Grande. And so you can't just only eat like the cinnamon twists or, the loaded fries or something.
Some shredded lettuce. It's not going to count.
Exactly. or a bowl or something. So,
Oh, my
so
goodness.
You got to have some calories. We haven't, and we're like reserving the right to add like stupid rules as the race gets closer.
As one should. Michael, let me ask you.
You can add rules in the interim. Oh my god!
The only rule is there is no rule. How do you
Wow.
train for something like this? Let's pretend I'm not Michael Wardian, who does this, on the regular. This man just ran the Marine Corps marathon,
Wow.
which we'll get to in
That's
a
what
second.
I was gonna ask.
Which we'll get to in a second, because you also did it wearing Tevas. But if you're me and you haven't run 31 miles, let alone stopped at 9 Taco Bells in one day,
Right.
how do you train
Yeah.
for this?
Well, I would say like it's completely free. So like that's the other thing I should say. Like it's a completely free race, not associated with Taco Bell. No one's trying to make money. We just want people to come out and have a good time. So it should be pretty easy to train because you have 11 hours. So like you could just walk to all the Taco Bells. So you could spend the whole day walking, and if you just average like 3 miles an hour, so 20-minute miles, you could still get it done. So there's that. So, I don't think you need to be, super fit going and doing mile repeats on the track or anything. And then it's just about consuming the calories.
Along the way as well. So,
wow.
400 people, he said, had signed up so far. This race is not until November 29th, 8 a.m. You can go to his Instagram, find out all the details if you want to join, to register ahead of time.
This is really cool. But it reminds me of that movie I just saw. Was it The Last Walk? Or
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
It's very similar to that. I mean, obviously, it's
with a different kind of punishment if things don't go according to plan. Let's put it that way.
Could you do it?
No.
Really?
No.
I
couldn't run. No, I couldn't either.
Well, let's say it's like 2 miles.
I shared, it was a little TMI, but I did share last night that the closest thing I ever did to this is what I called the Kentucky Hut Drive, which is I went from, we were going to a Notre Dame football game, so we drove from Philadelphia to South Bend, Indiana, and on the way along the Pennsylvania Turnpike, we stopped at a rest stop, and they had a Kentucky Hut, so we got the Kentucky Fried Chicken, we got Taco Bell, and we got Pizza Hut, and it ruined my entire weekend. The entire weekend was ruined.
That's all the information we want.
Exactly. Hey, listen, speaking of the long walk, remember they did like a promotional event for that movie where they had the audience walk on treadmills at the same speed, and if they had to take a break, they had to leave the theater and they couldn't see the end. Tonight, here in Washington, D.C., there's a special screening of the new movie Bugonia. I might be mispronouncing it, but this is the one that has Emma Stone, where she has the shaved head.
Okay.
And so if you want to go to that screening, you have to shave your head. Or you have to already be bald or be willing to shave your head in the lobby of the theater. So I'm trying to set up something on that tonight for the Live Zone primetime. So stay tuned at 9 p.m. for that.
That's what you call the tease.
I won't do that one either.
Well, we got Tony P. We can always
that's true. That's true.
And yet again, make sure you check us out tomorrow, 10 a.m. Good Day DC for the Halloween show. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yes, it will.
All right, we'll take a quick break. The latest on the government shutdown. Saida Abbas joins us next, right here on the LZ. All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone, we are joined now with Saida Abbas as we, well, quite honestly, discuss all things surrounding the government shutdown. Now, day 30. It is so hard for me to say that, Saida.
Guy, it is not a laughing matter. And I was just telling him, I can't believe it's been almost a month that we have been in this shutdown. We want to talk about the state of Maryland. It's under a state of emergency. So let's see what the governor there has to say about that.
I'm angry that we're asking our public servants to do so much because our federal government has decided to leave us behind. What we are seeing from this federal administration is not just cruel, it's illegal. They are breaking the law to show how cruel they can be. That I'm thinking about the work that they are doing and how cruelty has essentially become a governance philosophy of the Trump administration. Because the money is there. They are choosing not to allocate it. The money has been appropriated. They are choosing not to distribute it. This is heartless. This is cruel. And this is unforgivable. And I think about the why we are here, but also the basic necessities that we have to then turn around and provide, because when the federal government says that you are on your own, in the state of Maryland, we say we leave no one behind.
Yet again, Governor Westmore discussing all things surrounding the government shutdown, allocating with regard to the
SNAP benefits.
The state of emergency, allocating some $10 million to SNAP benefits. But, you know, it's a drop in the bucket. It's a step in the right direction for those that are in dire need of it, Saida, but it will likely only last for about 1 week or so.
Yeah, that's what you were mentioning, and I hope that, you know, somebody can get something out of this at the end of the day, but there needs to be more done, not just this, you know, and especially with the shutdown, we want to remind folks every single day that we have the resources you need on our website. For any ways that we can help, we have where the food banks are, locations, hours, whether that's Maryland, DC, Virginia. It's all on our website. Download the app, Fox Local. We have all the information you need to know about the Maryland Food Bank, the Capital Area Food Bank as well. They're giving out food distributions weekly and the hours for that as well. The Chesterfield Food Bank Outreach Center as well. So they're going to give out food every first and third Friday at their Chester location. And like we mentioned yesterday as well, in DC, Pepco, which is a major electric company, they want to help people out with bills and money, find out how you can get a pause on bills or some kinds of discounts, because right now people are going to have a tough time paying their bills. We've been talking about this. People are not getting paychecks, right? Like, it's not a good time to be in right now. And if you are an essential worker in the state of Maryland, like we were mentioning, there is a federal government shutdown. There's a program that you could be eligible for a one-time, which is a no-interest loan through the Maryland's federal shutdown loan program. So definitely look into that as well if you are struggling, if you're a furloughed worker. You are not alone. It may feel like that right now. We have resources for you. Virginia officials are reminding those federal workers of the state laws that protect you from eviction and things like foreclosure during this shutdown. So be aware of all these things. It's important to educate yourself when you are in that situation, right? When you are not getting a paycheck, you can't make ends meet. We have all that on fox5dc.com. Download Fox Local.
Yeah. Yet again, what's that phrase? We the people. It's great to see the people coming together to make sure that all of those that are in need are getting the help. So good stuff. And you're doing a great job of staying on top of it. Yet again, Saida Abbas joining us right here on the Live Zone with all things that, well, you can turn to. Our website, fox5dc.com. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. the Fox 5 Live Zone. Time for our 30 Talkers with my friend, none other than Ashley Demi, joining us right here on the LZ. Hello.
Hi there.
Good to see you.
Amazing to be seen.
Looking fabulous as always.
Thank you. You do as well.
Well, thank you.
Takes one to know one, right?
I got a chance to, we bumped into each other the other day. It was like a reunion. We we ran in slow motion. My friend, good to see you. So I'm so glad you're here. All right, let's jump into it. In this case, we're talking about some of the stories that you, my friends, are discussing at home. And with that, we bring in producer Joey.
Hello. All right, first up is the word of the year, and it's not a word. Here's what it is. Let me know if you recognize this video.
Okay, basketball?
It's 2 words.
All right, Ashley, what are you thinking the word
Wait for it. This is the original.
Excited?
6'7". That's it. It's a 6'7" kid. The word of the year is 6'7". Is it a word? What do you guys think of that?
So I'm so confused.
Well, see, this is the Gen X era. We are aging ourselves.
Okay.
Or, excuse me, Gen Z. Gen
right,
Z.
Right.
It's like, but I've been seeing that all over Instagram.
So what is 6'7"?
Asher, you're Gen
Joey?
Okay, 6'7" is LaMelo Ball is 6'7", and then the video with the kid I just showed you, and the guy did this, and it's 6'7", and that's it, and it's everywhere now. It's banned in classrooms. It's all over.
All right, so I think, and I did a little research prior to this, and I think it means so-so, kinda, like it's like maybe a little bit. I don't know. I'm still confused.
Oh, like so-so.
Yeah, like so-so, like
Well, this is a so-so hand symbol, but 6'7" is 6'7". I mean, you're counting to 10. 6, 7.
Oh.
No, I don't know what it is.
Okay.
Is the answer to that? No.
So we are now convinced that we still don't know what the word
Yeah, I mean, remove it from the dictionary. Bootylicious can stay, twerk can stay, 6'7" cannot stay. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, well, I know I'm 5'7", and I'll just leave it at that.
I'm 5'9" in my head.
Oh, gosh. Did you get a chance to see this? And I'm talking about what happened in Detroit. Apparently, a Detroit police officer showed up for a virtual court hearing, and the judge said, how about we just watch? Okay, I think we have...
No, sir. And why are you so late?
Okay, so we just missed it. In essence, what happened is, as you can see, he logged on. You could go ahead and silence it, Joey. But he logged on, and apparently, he didn't have any pants on, Ashley Demi. So the judge looked at him, and when you just heard him say, "No, sir," that's what he was making reference to. The judge said, hey, officer, you don't have pants on. No, sir, I don't.
I've done that many a time.
Are you serious?
I've done that many a times.
Wow. Okay.
But I mean, we're not in the 2020 era. We're not in COVID anymore, so it's safer to put on clothes. But during that time, nobody had on clothes.
Yeah, that's true.
The whole time.
But it's all about the angles, as they say. And
yeah,
in this
but
case,
if it falls down, it's a wrap. My God! But to be a police officer, he should know better.
Yeah, you got to wear your pants, guys and gals.
Full uniform at all times, please.
Hey, what are you working on? You're always so busy.
I'm always so busy. Well, last night I went to the Recording Academy.
Nice.
They had an award ceremony, and it was like Congress plus Christian music.
Okay.
Oh, it was so great. So they honored people on Capitol Hill, and then they honored congressmen and women, and then they honored gospel singers. So it was a good time to see us come together for once, because they were fighting for rights of artists. So it was an amazing time right on F Street in D.C.
Wow, you're always doing amazing things, and that's why we love you. Giving back in a major way. Ashley Demi joining us, and producer Joey for a little, well, we call it Thursday Talkers. Truly appreciate ya.
Thanks for having me.
All right, we'll take a quick break, guys. We'll be right back. for the latest look at the forecast.
Wait, is it that 6-7 thing?
You spoiled it.
Oh, wait, was I not supposed to? I had no idea, but I was seeing stories about it. I was thinking it's like everywhere.
I don't know what it is, but producer Joey, who's a Gen Zer, he's going to break it all down for us.
Oh, okay, so we're going to find out.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and coming up soon. By the way, you know what we need to tease? The big shebang that we're doing tomorrow during Good Day DC, the Halloween show.
Good. I wasn't sure where you were going with that. So, excellent. I'm glad you know what we're doing.
In more ways than one.
All right, let's do this weather together. Wait, are you going to join us for the show tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm on the show with you.
Okay, you going to do something special for us?
Yeah. It's top secret, but I know what you're
Because I often
thinking,
see guys like, we'll
going to be different tomorrow.
Very presentable most of the time. Okay, I can't wait for this. Yes, come join us for our show tomorrow. It should be fantastic. We're all going to have a good time. All right, overnight, the rain, not such a good time in that it was really a good soaker this morning as everybody was off to work and school. However, rain was really needed, and the biggest rain we've had in more than a month.
Wow.
Yeah, over an inch plus there at local area airports, and just about everybody got a good soaker. We had some good downpours, even a couple flashes of lightning and a little thunder this morning. A little unusual for the end of October. 63 degrees for your midday hours. Now, the good news is we're drying out, and the trend will be, you ready for this, Guy?
Yep.
Some sunshine by mid to late afternoon. So you can see we're getting some breaks in the clouds there. In fact, let me show you the radar here in the satellite, and you may see it for yourself. That's radar. That looks like the last batch of rain lifting to the north and east. So we're not quite done with the rain chances near term, but as we get into the middle of the afternoon, we should see more and more dry air work in here, and yes, some breaks in the clouds expected by late afternoon with high temperatures in the mid to upper 60s. So an improving forecast, and then we are all good from here. We'll get a cold front tonight that'll come through dry, and we will be in for cooler conditions around here tomorrow. High temperatures around 60 for Halloween. However, dry conditions all day.
Oh, that's
and
good news.
Just right. No rain to have to worry about. Not so cold that you got to put a coat on over your, your costume, that kind of thing. And I'm expecting all systems go for a great Halloween across our region tomorrow afternoon. There you go. 68 this afternoon. Actually a little mild with that late day sunshine. Tomorrow looks great. Weekend looks great too. Reminder: the clocks, they go back. You get an extra hour of sleep early Sunday morning.
I need it.
We all do. And then we got a Commanders game Sunday night. Evening hours look great, 50s, but it should be clear and quiet if you're going to Commanders Seahawks Sunday night.
I'm going.
Yeah,
I'm really excited. So, all right, Tucker Barnes, All Things Weather. You can check him out tomorrow, 10 a.m. Good Day DC. It's the Halloween special. Appreciate ya, folks. If you haven't already done so yet, make sure you download the Fox Local app and take that forecast with you on the go. And we truly appreciate you watching today. We do it each and every Monday through Friday, 12 to 2. Tell a friend. And we'll do it again. On behalf of Joey, I'm Guy Lambert. The Take next, right here on Fox 5.